okay, if their goal was to come across as cheap and crass, conceptualized with a high budget, then they succeeded.
I don't think that was their goal.
Hi, this is Juniper.
Hello, this is Elle.
Welcome to another pod. And today we're going to talk about the Netflix series Kaos that recently aired. So I will start us off, as usual, by saying that I'm the reason we watched this because I grew up loving Greek mythology. In fact, one of my favorite books as a child was Edith Hamilton's Mythology. I have probably 2 copies of that book and have read it many times. And I also read, like, I don't know, all the Roman versions of stuff, like Ovid's Metamorphoses.
Mm-hmm.
Great book. Anyways, long story short, when I read somewhere that, hey, there is an all-star cast, right? Dark comedy that Netflix just put out about kind of a modern take on ancient Greek gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, great, I'm there. Check it out. So that's why I ended up watching it. And I convinced you, I'm twist or not, to watch it. And having done that, we, as usual, have thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I will just also caveat the fact that A, we always go into spoiler land, and B, this will be more random than usual in terms of the fact that, upfront and honest, this show is so random that it inspired very random thoughts in us. And so we will go where we want to go when it occurs to us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that said, where do we want to go?
I guess we could start with what it's about at a very high level.
Yeah, It's about the gods. It's about the gods, right? He kind of strung together many famous Greek myths. But there is a central theme, which is, I mean, I think your take on it was pretty good.
Well, I mean, so the creator sought to create like a gender bending show, modern retelling. So everything's set in the modern times. And I think that was part of the attraction too, right? How would they retell the story with these characters in modern times? And so when it starts, it's very glitzy, right? They show Olympus as almost this. Okay, I didn't tell you this, but when I saw it, I was like, it looked like if Versace created Olympus, like, you know, that kind of like
tacky,
that very tacky.
But that was a voiceover, right? From Prometheus. He's like, you know, there's no, was it accounting for good taste or like power doesn't get you good. I forget what the opening line was, but
But every time they met Olympus, everyone wore like the loudest colors around this like very ornate dining room or whatever, living room, whatever they were in. But anyways, so it's a modern retelling, and basically, long story short, Zeus, I guess, had a wrinkle or something, and he starts obsessing over it. He thinks it's fulfilling some sort of prophecy that's going to take him down. And so it's 8 episodes long. He spends basically the bulk of the show trying to go after who he thinks is after him or who will help fulfill the prophecy so that he can...
Which is his downfall.
Yes, he thinks he's trying to prevent the prophecy from happening, which is that he will, you know, lose his powers. But of course, in doing all of these things, he actually fulfills the prophecy. And it ends on sort of a cliffhanger of what's going to happen next. So as you and I are watching this, so the first episode was really slow.
Yes. It was very meh. That was my one-word description, meh. That's MEH for you who are wondering.
So I focused on a woman named Eurydice.
Eurydice.
Orpheus
and Eurydice, right? So in the ancient myth, right, Orpheus was a very famous musician, which is exactly what they did here, right? Everyone loved his singing and songs, and he loved Eurydice. And then unfortunately she died. I forget, it was some accident she died of. And then he was so heartbroken. And he decided, just like they did in the show, to go into the underworld to get her back. And he did get her back, but at the end he did fail, which in a way, I guess, they stuck to the kind of the spirit of that myth in this version, in that he got her back, right, in the story of Chaos, but they parted ways.
Right.
There
Because
was
she
no
didn't
yeah,
love him anymore.
right.
Yeah.
Whereas in the original story, he was told to never look back at the soul that followed him out of the underworld. He convinced Hades and Persephone to let her go or something, right? All the
Yeah.
trials. But at the very last minute, as they were about to reach Earth, he couldn't hold back and look back, and she disappeared again.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know what? So you didn't like Riddy, and I thought she was okay. And as I kept watching it, but I really didn't like her at the very end, to be honest, because the last scene when she basically revealed to him that she was kind of upset that he didn't. So in the story, when you die, you get a coin. So if you get the coin, you get to supposedly reincarnate. They call it renewal. And so she was pissed because without the coin, she's stuck in the underworld for 200 years, and she has to do like a menial job. That's like sort of, okay, you do your 200 years and then you can get rebirth. So she was mad that he didn't give her the coin. But then he told her, like, I loved you. I didn't want to lose you. And now I'm here to save you and I'm bringing you back. And she's like, I feel like she understood, but she's just so into her own emotions of be like, I don't love you. I'm not even grateful that you did all this for me. Like, it was really hard to watch and feel sorry for her, because she is supposed to be a very important character, and they imply she will be very important if a season 2 happens. Her character is supposed to continue. She's supposed to have a hero's journey. And I felt so bad for Orpheus, because in the original mythology, he is the hero, and he's the hero that loses her twice. And like, you feel even more sorry for him. It was his own
fault, right? So in some ways, the theme that you just touched upon, which I don't like Riddy, because she just didn't do anything for me other than come across as self-involved or absorbed.
Yes.
But the problem is, I think every character could be accused of that. So, okay, let's just get it out of the way. Our actual sentiments about the show, having finished it. I'll start, because I just got to get it off my chest. Right? I didn't have any expectations about the show, because I didn't know it was happening until I saw that it was out. And then I was excited to watch it, only because of my love of Greek myth. And I was like, oh, it sounds like a fun cast. And the premise was fun. After watching it, I mean, honestly, I labored through it. I was like, wow, this was really disappointing. Concept-wise, I would have given it like, an 8, right? Plus, maybe. Execution-wise, it's not like the execution was poor. It was more like the actual realization of whatever the concept was like, I don't know, a 5.5. Well, it's a 6 in delivery, but a 5.5 or lower in terms of like its impact, positive impact and resonance with me as an audience member, because I could not like any of the characters. Oh, there are characters I did like more, but it just, like, most people didn't resonate with me. Our hero and heroines, right? Like, it was like caeneus, Ariadne, and riddy, right? They're the 3 humans, I think, who is going to be the downfall of the gods, right? And then the other main characters, whether it's the gods or half demigods like Dionysus, which is like, Dionysus I actually like enough. Of all the gods, I'll just get out of the way too. It's like, I only liked Hades and Persephone, and it's because I really like Hades, partially because of my personal bias for the actor David Thewlis. I like David Thewlis a lot. I know you're like, who's David Thewlis? You've probably
Why do you
seen
like
him
before. What has he been in?
He's played some really bad psychos. In fact, he was Ares in Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Right. He's very low-key,
was
right?
Was it the first one? I didn't watch the second.
Yeah, the first one. And people at the time said, wow, what a joke of an Ares, right? He doesn't look like an Ares. Well, he doesn't look like anything. That's the thing, right? But
he doesn't look like Hades here.
No, he doesn't. He's kind of like, now that he's old, he's always playing these kind of like nondescript, kind of harmless like older men that you wouldn't notice normally, but turns out there's something like happening with them, right? That's kind of the Hades character. But there's like this sweet gentleness to him. Oh, he was in Harry Potter.
I'm sure he was. He looks familiar.
Gary Oldman, like the Gary Oldman's characters, like I forget, friend or someone, the mad one.
Not Sirius Black, right? Because that was
No,
Gary Oldman.
No, I don't know Harry
Lupin?
Potter. Lupus, whatever. Lupus is a no. Lupus is a disease. All right, illness, I should say.
I think there's a
Anyways, people
Lupin.
go.
I could
Was
be
there a
wrong.
Lupin? Yeah. Anyways, so
I
he was
think
in that. Go
so.
look it up. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was really the reason. Like, I could not understand what the show was trying to do. It wasn't funny for a comedy, dark comedy or otherwise. There was no wit.
Yes.
I could see them trying. I did not get a giggle at all.
Yeah. So let me tell you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say. No, I was gonna say. So when you pitched it to me, you said like it was like Succession, right? And I watched every season of Succession except for the last one. I'm going to watch the last one because I love Succession. And Succession was an HBO show. The wonderfulness of Succession, which starts off, it's about a very dysfunctional family, and there's a lot of crass vulgarity. The way they talk to each other is vulgar, but it's very sharp writing. And even if the characters are meant to be unlikable, you do like them. Like you do see aspects of each character where you're like, okay, I can see them, being the heir. Okay, I can see this other one getting a chance, right? Like they always like the
you
children
care.
always
they
always redeem themselves a little bit, yeah. And as dysfunctional as they are, there is love in there, right? And even the father, he's like, you can tell, like, even though he's supposed to be sort of like this asshole, you feel bad for him, like, oh, these are my heirs to my wealth, my billions of dollars, right? So as I'm watching this version of what they're pitching as like a Greek mythology meets Succession, like I don't feel that love, like between the siblings, the characters, the children, like not. I mean, they don't even give him that many children. Like Dionysus is like the only son they really show on the show. And considering Zeus has so many children, right? They don't show the other gods. And then he has a very weird relationship with his wife. She has a weird relationship with Poseidon.
Well, that's mythology. Well, the Poseidon part was not mythology.
Yeah, but you don't feel the that's you don't feel
Hera
the love.
was always a bitch, okay?
Yeah, I know you didn't like her. I didn't think much of her until you said that. I was like, yeah, I mean, they're all awful, right? We know that the Greek gods are awful, but so you were saying that originally Zeus was supposed to be played by Hugh Grant, right?
Yes, I kept wondering
and
how
then
different it would have been
because it's played by Jeff Goldblum here. And I thought he was okay in the first couple episodes, but I was telling you, my favorite modern Zeus was like Russell Crowe from Thor. Like he was only on stage for a few minutes, huh?
Right. He was an asshole too in Thor, but he was a lovable asshole. Like it was still Russell Crowe being like charming, nasty, right?
Yes.
Like it was like there's like a twinkle in the Greek gods in mythology were always kind of flawed and cruel, right? Capricious. That was the word. Remember, I was like, I have to go look up what the adjective for that is. What I mean to convey, and the word I landed on was capricious. They just did whatever they wanted for their own means, right? Like they don't care. And that's exactly the type of characters we're dealing with here. But they were never smarmy.
Yeah,
it's a problem. Like I felt like, wow, this is really cheap and smarmy. Like I don't care. These are just like the low scum, right? The gods. And I'm just like, why would I want to watch a show about it and about their drama with each other? Like they deserve to just annihilate each other and get annihilated at the end, 2 episodes tops, right? The problem also is then the humans weren't really sympathetic either. So then you're like, well, who am I supposed to care about and root for? I don't really care if anyone wins. In fact, I think they should all go to, well, I was going to go to hell, but no, it's not the end if you just go to hell. Like even Prometheus, who was the narrator, and turns out like he kind of was like a mastermind, puppet master behind the scenes, right? He knew this was coming and he was orchestrating it. He was not likable either. To me, there was a smugness to his narration. And then he did what many people in this, gods or otherwise, did to other people they supposedly loved in the show, which is he was very high-handed and did not consult his love of his life and just killed him and sent him to the underworld so that he could be ready to realize his plans or the prophecy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it Karen? Is it how do you say his name?
So
Karen
I
or
don't remember, but
Charon?
yeah, yeah,
The boat guy, yeah.
yeah, the boat
I like
guy.
the boat guy.
So
I like the boat guy.
right, I'm just like, these are all like completely selfish, self-righteous, selfish, capricious people and gods.
Yeah.
So that was like, well, it's really hard to like anything. And I didn't know what the show was about. Like, what was the point of the show? It wasn't funny. There was no dramatic tension. There were moments like once you get past like episode 3, you kind of cared like, oh, what's gonna happen plot wise, right? Like, where are they gonna take this? But then it will like lose its steam, and you go like, well, I still don't care because it's not really dramatic tension. I just kind of like am like trying to find out what happens.
Yeah. I think the problem for me, well, several problems, right? One is, oh, actually, before I get into the problems, right? We did like Ariadne, the woman
Her
Ari.
story
Remember?
more than the character, to be honest.
Yeah, her story was good. Her story, like she's with the
It could
minotaur
have
and
been a
everything.
standalone story just around that. Like
Yes,
reimagine the way they did it, and that would have been a much better show in my mind than this
yes.
whole random mixed bag of stuff.
But I also felt she was the only character capable of love. You know what I mean? Like
Or some sort of
she
emotion.
some sort of emotion because she was wronged her whole life. She was told that she had killed her
Yes.
brother when they were babies. Like she rolled over and suffocated him, and she was left with this guilt because the mother kind of blamed her, like you murdered your twin brother, right? So she kind of like only had love coming from her dad, who really used her. And in the end, even though her dad like loved her, she realized like he's kind of he's messed up. His devotion is in the wrong places, and she got revenge for her brother, you know, and that kind of helped her regain the love from her mother. Like that to me, that story it all ended really nicely in one to two episodes, and I was like, this is a good story. Like, but the other characters like that supposedly are bigger names, have more heft in mythology and in real life. Like they just yeah. So going to the problems, right? The execution, like I'll be so one, you know, Olympus is like this fake Versace land, right? And then you get to the human world, which I couldn't tell like they wanted it to look gritty. It kind of like it was like a fake Philadelphia mixed with Las Vegas. So they had this weird vibe of like, you know, it just didn't feel it was like
It felt
yeah,
like
it's
gangland.
what
Like the slums, right? The ghetto.
Yeah,
Plus
like it
like
just
like war zone. So it's kind of like a
yeah.
dystopian version of Earth, right?
Yes, like it wasn't pretty. Like Earth looked kind of like they're in the desert most of the time, right? Like the cave. Remember the cave? It's like in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, what? Like geographically, it was weird.
They're
And
in
then
Crete. They're in Crete,
and then
supposedly.
oh, is it the whole thing
Yeah.
set in Crete?
Minus. King Minos is the king of Crete.
Yeah,
By
they
the
showed
way,
her.
the story of the Minotaur or Minotaur is not a minor myth. They just didn't spend as much time on it. That's why they didn't. I think they shortchanged the amount of time on the Ariadne story. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
No. I mean, it's just visually like it was trying. Like you and I said, it's trying to be a lot of things, and it didn't know where it wanted to be.
Right.
Right.
Right. Not a comedy, not a good drama. As a prestige show, where was the prestige? Like it was
Yeah.
crass and cheap, but high budget cheap, which is like the weirdest thing, right? Like that's what I said. When you said Versace, I'm like, oh, that's what it is.
That was my initial thought.
Like flash and emptiness, right? And crassness and smarminess. You're like, oh. Not trying to offend anyone who does love Versace. That's a look, right? But
it's a look.
as a
It's
show,
yeah.
right? If that's what they're going for, great. But I didn't get the sense that's all they were going for.
No.
Then it should have been a music video or a magazine shoot.
Yeah. Because and you know, like, you know, we watch a lot of, you know, Chinese dramas. And whenever I look at Chinese dramas, right? Like when they do story arcs and, you know, we visit location to location, there's a very distinctive look, but it's somewhat cohesive, right? Because it's the same world. Like here I want to watch it. So like I was saying, Olympus is like Versace land. Earth is like this weird meld. Like I said, Philadelphia mixed with Las Vegas. And then Underworld was like pre-World War II industrial something, because it was like they were in offices, they were, you know, calling each other in these landlines. Like to get from Underworld to Earth, they had to go through some door and then through a dumpster. Like it just didn't make sense to me. There was no cohesion visually. So when you're watching this, as you're trying to get into the characters, I feel like the settings were also really weird, and that might be also the disconnect because you don't feel the
That it's in the same universe.
yeah, or the atmosphere. The atmosphere is not linked properly. Like even Poseidon, to be honest, maybe it's a budget thing. All they did was show him on a yacht. Like he was never underwater. Like there's no ocean scenes, right? Like not even a blue filter of fake bubbles or anything. Like he's just hanging on his yacht, or his super yacht. Like it's a billionaire's yacht. So, anyways,
I think
mean,
the
they
highest budget was
probably
used on the circle of water and Hera's tons.
oh yeah, the CG for that was pretty good.
But I was like, that's gross though. But her bathroom
It was
is
gross.
something else.
Yes,
But I did so I think we did touch upon this before we kind of meandered too far off. We did say this was kind of random. So if you're still with us, good for you. Kudos. I think what we were trying to say earlier was that I think if I don't like Jeff Goldblum. I'm sorry. Nothing against him personally, but I've never liked him. Like, there are people who think he's charming and funny. He is funny, but he's not charming. Like, to me in that way. Not in the way I wanted this character of Zeus to be charming enough for me to care for the show. Right? That's why I'm like, if Hugh Grant had played it, I could sort of see maybe it's very different. Hugh Grant has played the smarmy villains before. Right?
And he's good at smarmy villains.
But you
don't look at him and think smarmy villain.
Well, no, he's kind of he does give that off energy for me, but he kind of gets away a little bit with it, like you said, kind of maybe with how you felt watching Succession, because there's a charm to that in some ways that it just hooks you to kind of care to see what happens. I think
it's like if you're an asshole, right? But you're an asshole, you can do it with the twinkle in your eye kind of thing. I feel like here, I think what you're saying about Jeff Goldblum's performance is that he's an asshole, but he doesn't know he's an asshole.
No, he's so unself-aware, he doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, which is built into the dialogue, into all of his actions, right? Like everyone's telling him and warning him and trying to help him, and he's just like he's a real asshole in the sense of like, no, I'm right and you're wrong, and all of you, and he punishes you if you don't listen to him, right? He struck Hades, right, and hurt him, and he was like threatening to do it to all the other family members, which is why I said there's no love, because you don't see that in Succession, no matter how much the dad can't stand his kids.
The gods never really had that much love for themselves. I mean, they've always had this sort of infighting, so I'm not surprised. I mean, for God's sakes, Zeus did kill his dad, Kronos.
Yes.
They did kill their dad, but their dad was an abusive dad.
Wasn't their dad eating his kids?
Yes.
Kronos ate his children.
Yeah. And then Zeus
yeah. So I don't know. Like, okay, so you said that you love mythology from books. Like, I remember watching the old Clash of the Titans, when I was a kid.
I watched both versions of Clash of the Titans and the Wrath of the Titans sequel, which I told you, I was like, I mean, that was a laughable movie, but at the same time, that was more entertaining than this show, okay?
Yes. Yeah,
because they were committed to a certain vision for how they wanted to do it, right?
Yes.
Cheesy sword and sandals CGI type of stuff. And you got, in the remake, right, you got Liam Neeson as Zeus and Ralph Fiennes as Hades, for God's sake.
I know, I didn't know that. I love Ralph Fiennes, so I need to check that out. Yeah, so my love of mythology comes from that very old school look. But I was very open to retellings. Like I feel like a lot of people, I don't know about now, like if Greek mythology is taught the same way it was taught when I was a kid. Like I wouldn't say we were taught, but I read mythology like on my own in 4th grade. And I just remember like the stories was just so fascinating. And it's just, I don't know, like, so you and I talked about this offline. Like we would say the writers stay true to most of the characters' story arcs, I think. They tried their best. They tried their best to make it fit cohesively. Right?
I didn't need them to stay that true. I wasn't going to be like, I'm docking you points if you didn't follow the original mythology. Because I understand this is a modern play twist, right? Yeah. But you have to have a point to what you're twisting it on. And I was not seeing the point. What was the point of this? Who is it for, as someone said? I don't know. I agreed with that sentiment. I was like, who is this for? Like, what
I mean,
is this?
right, because if your goal is to like inspire love in Greek mythology, then I think that children's book series is better. What is it?
I don't think they were trying to inspire love. That's the
Percy
point.
Jackson. Is it Percy
Oh
Jackson?
yeah, Percy
Yeah,
Jackson.
like
But
that.
I don't think.
That's yeah.
Yeah, they weren't going for that though. But if they're okay, if their goal was to come across as cheap and crass, conceptualized with a high budget, then they succeeded.
I don't think that was their goal.
But yes, I don't think that's their actual goal. So I take what I just said with a grain of salt, right? Would you agree though that if that was their goal, they hit the bullseye?
Yes.
Right?
I mean, I wish they did more with Medusa. Like, I like.
Oh, she was a better character of all. Like,
yeah,
so let's talk about some characters that we like, right? Like, I did like I said, Hades and Persephone. I actually ended up liking Dionysus. He started off like, he was actually one of the gods I liked in ancient mythology too, right? So I was happy to find that he was somewhat redeemable. I love Dennis. Poor Dennis. If there was, okay, so the show's been canceled. So I'm not crying tears over there. I know there were people crying over this, but I was like, I mean, it didn't really deserve a season 2 for God's sakes. But had they had a season 2, I would have wanted to see Dennis somehow come back. Yeah, and Dionysus. I told you this offline. Like, if they follow the mythology that closely, Dionysus will end up with Ariadne. Because Theseus abandoned Ariadne, right?
Yes.
On Naxos. And Dionysus, in most versions of the myth, finds her.
Yeah.
And marries her.
Well, they imply that. I told you when he was watching her in the maze from their whatever widescreen TV, and she stabbed her father. He was like, oh, I think I'm in love.
So when you told me, I'm like, oh, so they were gonna set it up for that. But
because at the end he shows up in her at the capital or wherever she is.
I did not like what they did with the Trojans. I mean, the Trojans did lose a big war, but I mean, come on, what a bunch of losers. I mean, the sun.
I mean, in the modern sense, they were treated like refugees, right?
Yes.
Like they had no land, so they were just sort of like displaced, and so they were rewriting them as if they're modern day displaced.
Well, take that story to its conclusion, though. If you had a season 2 or 3, would they actually focus on the Aeneid? The story of Aeneas, who founded Rome.
Yeah. Yes,
he didn't found Rome, but his people did. Like they went. Yeah. So he's a Trojan. Maybe are they gonna go like rise up again in that sense? That would have been maybe an interesting story.
But then that takes away from the whole Zeus storyline, right? Which is like this is not a story about the humans in mythology. It's supposed to be about the humans trying to take down the gods. We don't know what
the story is about. That's the struggle.
Right, because
who is it about and who is it for?
Yes, because Greek mythology covers many facets. It's not one realm. There's different realms, and they try to blend it together, right? They're trying to... they do say, if you listen to the music, the lyrics, like there's a whole thing where they say sacrilege, and I'm like, well, yeah, this is what this is, or blasphemy, or whatever. Like, this is about, people saying how religion takes a hold of you. I mean, there's if you want to analyze this deeply, there's a lot of things that they're trying to do. But again, that's part of one of the weakest parts is that it's trying too much, too hard, in too many places,
Well, there's I did write this down. There's like a meta aspect to the show when I was watching it. I was like, well, in a way, a key theme of the show is about kind of people becoming disillusioned with the gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the show, they realize the gods are no good, right? And therefore they rise up and do something. But I'm like, but the way the show executes it, I became disillusioned with everyone in the show, so therefore I don't care and I rise up and shut off the TV. Like, is that in that way they really realize their metaphor, right?
Yeah. So one of the questions I saw people ask is, who did Hera call at the very end? Since it's a cliffhanger, we may never know. Who do you think she called?
It's one of her children.
I was like, I wonder if it's Apollo. I mean, she said
Is Apollo her son? I think they say Ares or Ares might be her son. Not every children of Zeus is born of Hera.
well, whoever is the god of war is who I think she called because
Ares.
she said, "Get your army" or whatever is what she said.
Yeah, Ares, Hephaestus, which is the Vulcan in Roman, are her children. The other ones are not that famous, so I don't think it would have been them.
Okay, so I think she called Ares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does David Thewlis come and play Ares too? Sorry, I just had to.
He's not god of
ask.
war. He's god of the underworld.
I know, but in Wonder
Yeah.
Woman, he
So
was Ares.
Apollo. So let's see. Apollo is music. Okay. Yeah, it's Ares.
He's the sun god. Apollo's the sun god.
Yeah. Yeah, he's also a healer and all that. So yeah, so I mean, I think season 2 they probably would have planned to bring in other gods and then other human mythological figures, and it would have been interesting. I don't know, it would have been interesting.
So I would have watched the season 2 to see Zeus get his comeuppance, but if he doesn't get his comeuppance, I'd be like, no.
Well, I was telling you, like, oh, it ended just when it started getting interesting.
Yes, you did say that. I was like, oh, really? Like, what was interesting for you? Because did they hook you with on the other side of the payphone, or?
I wanted to see what was going to happen with Prometheus. To be honest, I know you didn't like him based on what you said, but I wanted to see what his deal was because in real life, Prometheus is a very, I guess, well-regarded god. So, like, for them to...
He's not a god, though, Prometheus.
Wasn't he a god? I know he took fire. He brought fire to humans, but I think he is a god or demigod. He's some sort of... I don't think he's human. Unless he's a human that stole from Zeus. I thought he was at least part god. But, because his brother is Icarus, or his son. No, that's Daedalus.
Oh, so he's probably a giant if he's it says here he's the son of Titan.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a god, I think.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, I didn't care for his... I mean, okay, so this brings back randomness again, random jump. Before we jump, are you done with the Prometheus?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure before I jump randomly. So that brought back the one thing that struck me also about the show was that there are a lot of I said this slightly earlier that it's about selfish love. So one part that there are parts of the show that did resonate, like kind of like moments of light and flash, right? So for example, I think in episode 2, when Eurydice or Riddy, she didn't have the coin, so she couldn't go into the frame. The way they did that was interesting. Like the water just will not meet you, will not rise up. I was like, oh, that's a very frustrating, right? That resonated with me. So I like that part. But it also occurred to me that how frustrating and anguished you must be to be that dead person on the other side, to realize your loved one didn't give you a coin. And they did it out of selfishness, right? Orpheus did it out of selfishness. He thinks of it as love, but it's selfish love.
Yes.
Correct?
And I would agree,
so that was a theme that I feel like came on many ways, right? Like what I said about Prometheus stabbing his lover. Like, he loved you. He talks about him like, oh, the love of my life. But then he didn't consult. There was no consenting awareness, whatever. It's just like, oh, you're going to promise that you'll do something when you see the mark. Okay. All right, let me stab you in the neck. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so another thing...
You murderous asshole!
There's actually a lot of gore in this show, shockingly. Like, random gore. Like, just blood spewing. Yeah.
How are these people any different from Zeus? Self-righteous, right? They just decided that this is the right course, and therefore I'm in the right, I'm going to do it. Whereas the people like Dionysus people, you know what I mean, who are somewhat unsure, self-doubting, like kind of are portrayed as somewhat initially as weak. And I was like, but they're actually much more lovable as people or characters.
Right, because it's not black or white, right? It's not like I'm the villain, therefore I do.
I'm so sure of my goodness or the fate.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to see what is this show about, it's about a coup, basically. It's about
a coup that no one cares about.
It's about a coup where people want to take over, they don't have the power to take over, so they can only take the power away from Zeus, and it's weird because I'm like, everyone's like, oh, he's gonna destroy us all, so we have to destroy him first, right? But then it's like, once you're
But if you
quote
could have
unquote,
done that, you should have just done that. Like, but you obviously can't or are so afraid to do like that part doesn't make sense. Like Hera is so evil in her own way or mastermindish. I shouldn't say evil, right? She has her reasons to be the way she is too. Like she probably could have taken him down if she had wanted to, but she didn't. She chose not to. Is she afraid of him? I don't think so.
see that's the thing. That's the confounding thing with her character, because she will whip out those words, right? She will threaten and say, if you do this, I'm going to do this, but she never actually does it.
Yeah.
And there are moments when Zeus is attacked. Remember, he like was kind of had her in a stranglehold and around her neck, and she actually looked afraid of him. Like she didn't look like someone who could fight back and just kill him. To like, oh, we're really doing this.
Right, 1-on-1 they can't beat him, but if they join hands, look, if Zeus can kill Kronos, I don't see why they can't join hands and kill him.
So I think the implication is that he was really immortal until they took away that water, which was made from the souls of the dead people.
That's true for all of them.
Yeah. So I think now that it's like his kryptonite, right? They took away his immortal elixir or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And now they have a chance to take him down. Is that how it's implied, I think. But still, I don't know. Like they kind of made him like sort of bumbling too. Like he's just like prancing around his estate. Like he didn't seem like a god who was like invested in his subjects. I think that's what made him not so Zeus-like too. Like he's not really Zeus. Like Zeus.
No. That's your misconception. The gods were never about caring for humans.
I don't think they were caring, but
it's not like they're here to oversee their children who are on Earth. That's
true.
A very Christian concept.
Yes, you're probably right. I mean, like I'm trying to think, like Clash of the Titans, the original one. Like I remember there was like a room. Was there a room full of like little people. They could like watch the people. Like I don't know. That made a impression on young.
I just remember Elle. It was very white and bright, and everyone was in white cloth, and
I remember that the humans. Well, the
Laurence Olivier
really
was Zeus. And
Harry
was Theseus or Perseus. I think it was Perseus. I forget.
Perseus.
Yeah, he was Perseus. Perseus is like the only Greek hero in myth that I remember, like one of the major heroes who didn't have a major flaw or a sad ending. Because everyone else, including Theseus, in the actual myth, had a huge flaw or 2 or 5.
Yeah.
And had like a retribution or some punishment for it later in life.
I bet season 2 would have Hercules. They would have brought Hercules in. Because that would have been season 2. What?
I said Kevin Sorbo. I'm kidding. No Kevin Sorbo, please. Sorry. Not in his current incarnation. He's gone off some end of something too. So yeah, no, I did think about this as right before we started talking today, that I was like, is it because they modernized it that it doesn't work? Because we have these preconceived notions of how ancient mythology and gods should look like, the classical interpretation. But then you know what? I don't think so. Here's why. There was in recent history another kind of gods come to modern life adaptation. Have you ever seen or read American Gods?
Is that the Neil Gaiman?
Yes. So I read the book. I love that book. If you've never read it, highly, highly recommend. If you read no other Neil Gaiman, American Gods is a really good read.
I know. I've heard of it. I never read it.
And Starz made a series out of it. I didn't watch the whole series. I did watch season 1 because I think after season 1, it went on hiatus for a while because was it Brian Fuller, a singer, the showrunner left the show or got fired, and then they switched everything. around, and then some of the original cast members left. So it was kind of like a different show. So season 1 was slow, and it didn't really. It was about gods, right, in America and doing random stuff, mythical creatures. Same idea, right? And it was a dark comedy, if you think about it, with very twisted, gory elements and ironic elements. But it was never boring, at least not season 1, no matter how slow. Maybe because I had read the book, but I was like, this is very stylized rendering of the mythology of this world, but it was interesting to watch. Does that make sense? Even though you had no idea, if you never read the book, you'd be like, what is going on? What is this about? Who are these people? I read the book, so I kind of had an idea, like, oh, now Shadow's meeting this person, or this is a leprechaun, da da da. But you still didn't care if you didn't know all of that, because you were just like, well, this is just like a feast for the senses, or something is happening, right? That is like enjoyable. So I check that out if you have a chance, and I would love to hear your comparisons after that with this show, because one season of each, right? Like the other show had more seasons, I just didn't watch it. I would be interested in hearing both first seasons are original envisionings by the original show creators. So
I'll definitely check it out.
Definitely read the book, American Gods. I would definitely read it one day, or maybe listen to the audiobook, and then maybe we could talk about it. Although I don't know, it's a dangerous book to talk about because it's a very popular book.
I follow Neil Gaiman, but like on Instagram, but I don't I have not had time to read his books because they're pretty hefty books. So I feel like I need
not
to.
All his books are some things I've read. Oh, actually,
I read his children's book.
He was in the Sandman adaptation also on Netflix. See, he appears in all sorts of places.
What a prolific actor.
He is. You just don't realize that you've seen him.
So we touched on Medusa. So I wish they did more with her character other than making her into like this like manager or supervisor character. Like I thought it was funny when the snakes came out, and then the Prue, the dead lady, was like, oh, I didn't turn into stone. She goes, that you're dead. It's like that was probably the only joke that I laughed at. I was like, oh yeah, you can't turn into stone because you're already dead.
I think it's the delivery, right? It's the delivery.
Yeah, I liked her. I feel like she understood what her character was, and the deadpan worked for that character. Like, you expect a Medusa in a modern setting to be kind of deadpan, right? But yeah, Persephone. Persephone was interesting. I love how they made a big deal how she's like, oh, I'm not like how they wrote me, and why did you guys tell
I did like that.
Yeah, that I was raped and kidnapped, and I'm allergic to pomegranates, and why did you say that was like...
I wanted to know more about that story, okay? I was like, I want to know, because it actually, in terms of actual love, there was real love you can sense between Hades and Persephone.
Yes, they did have a loving relationship. Yes.
Where they cared.
But it's funny, because most of the scenes, they're in black and white. So when she's on an Olympus, though, the colors they made her wear were all like pomegranate colors. I don't know if you noticed. Like the deep maroon plum colors. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it was very pink to me, but me and colors, not good. Not good. Do not make me name colors precisely.
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, interesting, because now that I see her in colors, she's in pomegranate colors. So anyways, that's just my take on it.
I looked it up. Yeah, so David Thewlis was Remus Lupin in Harry Potter.
Yeah, Lupin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you gave it a rating. I gave it a 5. This was not... I watched it because I was like, all right, I wanted to see what happens. I wanted to... Because you said it gets a little better after it gets past the first 3 episodes, and I tried. They did end it finally sort of on a crescendo, if you will, where I was like, oh, I kind of do want to see what happens now. But too late.
And you don't care that it didn't get a second season.
You can write... Yeah, you can write fan fiction, right? There's so many characters, they exist already. You can just write whatever your version is. So
yes, but Dennis must come back.
Poor Dennis. Dennis is in the underworld. He'll come back with caeneus.
Poor Dennis. Yeah.
Yeah, the caeneus
Well, I guess
part was interesting. The
he was
bringing back all
interesting
the
enough
dead.
character. I just felt
Yeah.
like it's almost a disservice to pair him with Riddy.
Yeah, he deserves better than Riddy. Riddy's not. No,
We're all Riddy bashers.
No, I just. There's nothing wrong with the actress, by the way. It's the character. It's more like she didn't know what she wanted, right? She in her heart she knew, but she didn't do anything about it. She was bitter. She was bitter about her mother, bitter about her husband. Even though her husband, even though she doesn't like, you can argue that it was selfish that he took away the coin. But before that, like I feel like he really did love her. Like
yes,
but she wasn't moved.
Dead inside, right? But
she wasn't moved.
About it.
Yeah, she didn't do anything, right? So you feel like, well, you're angry, but it's all kind of your own fault because you're allowing that you just let things slide.
You're an aimless person who doesn't do anything about her life and doesn't, and then has resentment against the world for it.
Right, because he had no clue, right? Like she's like, "Didn't you feel that something's wrong?" And he's like, "Poor Orpheus is like." No, I'm writing love songs for you. I'm like telling the world I love you at my concerts. Right. Like, what? Why would I think anything's wrong?
She's a passive aggressive even personality in some ways, right? I can't tell if it's passive or passive aggressive at some points because I'm just like, it's like someone who resents the world because nothing good ever happens to them. But you know what? Apparently they just sit in their basement and play video games all day. Well, no shit, nothing happens to you all day. You don't go outside. Like, what? How's the world at fault for this, right?
Right. Like, she's so hung up that she felt abandoned by her mother that she doesn't see in front of her as a husband that really loves her and is like he even said, I did the one thing no human could do, which is to come and get you out of the underworld.
I don't need her to be nice or not nice to Orpheus, but I know what you're saying. I just wish like she would just get off her own whatever horse she's on. It's not a high horse, but she's on some weird indulgent horse and just like go do whatever you need to do, but we don't need to hear the drama, please.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, I wonder if he would have had a season 2 to meet someone.
Maybe. We'll see. Well, the myth, Orpheus got torn to bits.
I don't know what happened to him at the end. I only remember that he did not escape with her.
No, but that was so this end of his story is that he got torn to pieces, not because of this story, but some later in life.
Yeah, because he was also in battle, right? He never went to battle. No. I'm confusing him. Yeah, there's so many characters that they could have done interesting things with. Yeah, the glaucus story was sad. I was telling you that they combined the character in this, but yeah, it's minor. They would still follow the story pretty closely.
Actually, sorry, one more thing. If they follow the myth, it was a bunch of followers of Dionysus who are mad, right? They're like crazy revelers who killed Orpheus. So who knows? Maybe they could have done that in season 2.
Interesting, because they made them buddies in this, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
Anyways, anything else random to be randomly talking about in a random fashion?
No, I think we covered it.
Let's put this down. We should go read or watch American Gods because season 1. It's a good Neil Gaiman. That is a good work of fiction.
Yes, I will definitely check that out.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Until
Let's
next
close
time.
the chapter on Chaos. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.